Good evening and thanks for joining us on Galaxy Television News. Our top stories. President Buhari meets and receives briefings from the Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs, the IGP, and the heads of security agencies at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Sunday Igboho shows court how 2 persons were killed in his house and the extent of damage done to his house has resumed hearing in a suit against AGF and DSS. Outside Nigeria, Polish parliament backs a state of emergency on the Belarus border amid a surge in migration and upcoming Russian-led military exercises. Those are top stories. Details coming up in just a moment. My name is Solomon Offem with the news on Galaxy Television. President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday received briefings from the Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs, the Inspector General of Police and other heads of security agencies at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Also at the meeting are the Ministers of Defense, Bashir Magashi, Justice Abubakar Malami, Police Affairs, Megiri Dingyade, Interior Rafa Igbeshola, and Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Nyama. News gathered that attendees at the meeting are expected to brief the president on the current security situation across the country, as well as profile solutions. This is as banditry, kidnapping and killings have escalated in the country. The insecurity situation in the country worsened with the emergence of criminal gangs, often with hundreds of members, who raid communities, steal cattle, and kidnap residents for ransom after looting and burning homes. Many northern states, especially Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, and Niger states, are the worst hit, with people being kidnapped for weeks and months. States in southwest and southeast are also being affected by insecurity. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari says Saudi Arabia government has been kind to Nigeria in their bilateral relationships. President Buhari made the statement after he received Saudi Arabian Minister of Foreign Affairs, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Farham Al Saud in his office in Abuja. The president said with Nigeria's large population and infrastructure deficit, the country needed all the revenue she could get from oil, a mainstay of the economy. And Saudi Arabia, he said, has been very kind to Nigeria, making sacrifice by reducing production to accommodate the country a number of times. Prince Al Saud brought greetings from King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, saying the kingdom appreciates the relationship with Nigeria, which dates back 61 years, saying Nigeria wants to strengthen it even further. Minister of Foreign Affairs gave insight on the bilateral relationship between Nigeria and Saudi Arabia.
The Foreign Minister is here, and we're going to be having a more detailed discussions on Saudi-Nigeria relations in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But he took the opportunity of his visit to come and deliver greetings of His Majesty the King of Saudi Arabia to Mr. President, and to assure Mr. President of the commitment of the Saudi government to strengthen even further the relationship between the two countries.
The Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the partial unfreezing of the accountant of the mobile money operator, which is among 6. The Central Bank of Nigeria had their account frozen over alleged breach of operational guidelines. Justice Ahmed Mohammed Tuesday ordered the partial unfreezing by the CBN of the accounts of Bamboo Systems Technology Limited and Bamboo Systems Technology Limited OPNS to allow payments of rent and for salaries of staff that have been owed due to the account freeze. This ruling followed a motion on notice by the company's lawyer, Chezonu Okpokpo. Okpoko told the court that his clients are ready to resolve amicably the issues between it and the CBN. Counsel to CBN Governor Michael Owanduaka had said the CBN has no intention to cripple businesses, noting it is keen on making sure they operate within the well-stated operational guidelines. Other platforms affected by the order for account freeze are Rise Vest Technologies Limited, Chaka Technologies Limited, CTL Business Expenses, and Trove Technologies Limited. Still on legal matters, the Yoruba activist Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho, on Tuesday showed the court how 2 persons were killed in his house and the extent of damage done to his home and other property by officers of the State Security Service. At the resumed hearing, counsel to Igboho, Yomi Aliu, tendered 2 flash drives as exhibit before the court. The first flash drive contained the clips of damage done to the house and property of the Yoruba activist Sunday Igboho, as well as the bloodstain of the people killed within his premises. Also, counsel to the second and third respondents, T.A. Nuruddin, also tendered 2 DVDs which contained all the statements made by the applicant as regard his intention to liberate his people at all cost.
Tension and apprehension enveloped the premises of the Oyo State High Court, located at the Ring Road area of Ibadan, the state capital, as officers of the State Security Service and policemen manned strategic locations in the area. Security men attached to the court conducted thorough search on people entering the court, including journalists, while others were barred from the court premises. Vehicular movement into the court was also limited. After resumed hearing on the case, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, through his counsel, Abdullahi Abubakar, represented an application seeking the suspension of the interim order granted to the applicants. Responding, counsel to Sunday Igboho, Yomi Aliu, presented a...
You're still on to Galaxy Television News. Time for us to go for a break. We'll be right back with more report. Stay tuned. It is good to have you back. This is Galaxy Television News. For more updates and latest news, visit our website, galaxytvonline.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Galaxy TV Nigeria. You can follow and interact with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Galaxy TV. Don't forget to follow and tag us on our Instagram page at official Galaxy TV. You can also avail our eyewitness feature via WhatsApp. If you have breaking news around you, simply share your story by sending short clips or videos of the news on 0818-6666-669. Our social media platforms are user-friendly. They can always accommodate your live updates and comments. At least 25 people are feared dead following the cholera outbreak in Magboro, Obafemi, with the local government area of Ogun State, according to report. Galaxy TV News gathered that the outbreak had hit Arepo, Akaro, Akintonde, Shofolari and Abuleoko communities of Magboro, creating anxiety among the residents. The Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tommy Koka, confirmed the incident, which said is predominant among Okada riders and scavengers in the area. The chairman of Community Development Committee in Magboro, Oluwasegun Oladosun, told our correspondent on Tuesday that 15 persons died. He added that about 10 houses who relocated from the community to Kara settlement have equally died of cholera. The CDC chairman said a government team had visited the community and provided drugs for cholera treatment and prevention. And on to security matters, gunmen suspected to be bandits on Tuesday abducted a former general manager of the Katsina State Television, Alhaji Ahmed Abdulkadir, who he and his teenage daughter. Abdulkadir is also a retired director with National Broadcast Commission. Residents disclosed that the gunmen stormed his residence at Shema Quarters, Bakori local government area of Katsina State, early Tuesday morning and started shooting indiscriminately before they whisked him and his teenage daughter off. It was also learned that the gunmen abducted 3 other people in the community before moving all the victims into the forest. The spokesman for the Katsina Police Command, SP Gambo Issa, is yet to respond. A gunman had over the weekend abducted members of the families of 2 lawmakers in the state, 2 sons and the wife of a lawmaker representing Bakori constituency in the State House of Assembly. Dr. Ibrahim Kurami were abducted on Saturday night at Kurami. Gunmen suspected to be bandits have attacked the Kaka community in Chikum local government area of Kaduna State and abducted 18 residents. Galaxy TV, Bosan Yakuza gathered that the bandit had stormed the area in the early hours of Tuesday. Reports say the gunmen, numbering about 20, stormed the area with sophisticated weapons, shooting sporadically before whisking the victims away. The public relations officer of the State Police Command, ASP Mohammed Jalige, has yet to confirm the report, as the said information has not reached him yet. And from Kaduna State, we move over to Imo State, where hundreds of bank customers were left stranded on Tuesday as the officials of the Imo State government shut all the banks on Bank Road in Owerri, the state capital. Our correspondent who visited the area around 9 a.m. saw hundreds of customers waiting at various banks. Some of the banks that were sealed by the state government were Access, Polaris, First Bank, EcoBank and United Bank for Africa. Newsmen saw customized ribbons the state government officials used in sealing the various banks as early as 7 a.m. Some of the staff of the banks told our correspondent that the operatives of Owerri Capital Development Authority sealed the banks. Newsmen also gathered that the banks sealed were those that failed to open up on Monday. A day states in the southeast honored a sit at home in protest of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, who is being tried at the Federal High Court in Abuja by the federal government. However, some government officials say that the banks were sealed because of building approval plans. Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, IDFP, has called on the federal government and religious leaders to engage the code of conduct which was designed on mitigating religious conflicts between people of different religious beliefs and creed in Nigeria. The group, which comprises Christian and Muslim leaders, urged clerics of both faith to disorientate their adherents against hate speeches and religious extremism. Addressing journalists in Abuja, co-chairman of the forum, Bishop Sunday Onuoha, said promoting religious understanding through constructive principles of dialogue cannot be overemphasized. The Methodist bishop highlighted the key areas which the code of conduct will be focused so as to stop division amongst religious and ethnic lines.
We are confident that with a sincere dialogue among faith groups, it will continue to serve as a means to counter inciting and derogatory statements that fuel the embers of religious hatred. We denounce all forms of violence, religious extremism, and hate speeches.
He, however, pleaded that the forum would stand in solidarity with those who suffer neglect and marginalization, irrespective of the culture and religion. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, has trained 11 returnees in painting and other artworks in Benin City, the Edo State capital. The Assistant Project Officer of IOM, Elijah Eliagu, said speaking through art could correct some erroneous beliefs by some youth that until you travel abroad, you will not make it in life. He explained that the essence of the program was to communicate to the public through artwork the dangers inherent in traveling abroad through illegal means.
We were able to train 11 of them. We embarked on a 3-day training for them, and the 4th day, which is the exhibition, that is what you can see here. You can see the different paintings that they have done. It represents their experience, what they've been through as a result of their migratory journey to Libya and other destination countries. So,
on her part, the Benin Zonal Commander of National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Barrister Chidebere Ifudu, urged IOM to continue to sensitize the youths, especially the females, to avoid illegal migration and trafficking. Also speaking, a returnee states her position of traveling for greener pastures and returning to the country.
We're trying to sensitize the public by means of artwork. And the migrants as messengers are people who experienced what we are talking about. So they have first-hand information of what happened. So as they are able to recreate their experiences in artwork, other people will see, other people will understand, and it will form an opinion so that our youth will not embark on the journey of no return.
With artwork, after this moment, is to continue it, because I'm already a shoemaker, a tailor, and also a bag maker. So by the time I add this to it, I believe it will go far.
In June, Ogun State government ordered residents of 24 flood-prone communities to relocate temporarily following a recent flood prediction. Correspondent John Felix reported more than 2 months after, a number of the residents have been unyielding, wondering where they will go without any alternative. Details in this report.
Abeokuta residents living in flood-prone areas have been greeted with anxiety and palpable tension. This is because flash floods had once dealt a huge blow on them in the past, destroying properties and sometimes loss of lives. In June, the state government had directed residents of flood-prone and wetland areas across the 24 communities to relocate temporarily as part of moves to avert flood disaster. Parabiu Adebowale, an 80-year-old Panebita, looks frail and dejected as I approached him, where he sat in front of his bungalow at the flood-ravaged Ijeon-Tutu area of Abeokuta South local government area of Ogun State. He admitted that the government had asked them to vacate the areas.
The erosion used to enter our house, but since they brought the caterpillar, it has stopped. If it was before, it used to enter our house.
Barely 2 months after the relocation order, Galaxy TV News made a stop at some of the flood-prone areas. However, it was discovered that while a handful of the residents have abandoned their houses for safer places, a huge number of them stayed put, citing financial incapacity.
If it rains, we usually run away. When it stops, we return back home, since government did not provide an alternative.
àárọ̀ la máa ń wá bí at the same time tàbá kò mí lálẹ́ ibi tá à ń gbé yẹn náà owó pọ̀ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́.
We don't live here. We only come in the morning. We leave in the evening to sleep. Government should help us. They didn't do anything for us here.
The Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority hinted on plans to release a large volume of water from the Oyo dams to cities in both Lagos and Ogun State, raising concern among residents of the state. The managing director, Olufemi Odumosu, justifying the decision, said water releases from dams are yearly tradition to safeguard dams from collapsing.
We are likely to increase the water releases to an average of about 7 to 9 million cubic meters per day, while at the same time preparing for the main flood. You know, I mentioned that the peak of the flood season is always in October. So in October, we intend maximizing the created space in the reservoir. You know, I mentioned that we'll reduce it in August to impound more water and release it at a controlled average rate of 13 to 15 billion cubic meters per day, or less as to allow other major and uncontrolled tributaries to River Ogun to discharge into the sea, you know. So, you know, downstream, there are still other tributaries that enter Ogun River. So we have to take into consideration that those inflows into the will still compound or cause some downstream flow. So we have to regulate how we release, especially in that same October, so as not to create a kind of flood peak downstream, you know, to inhabitants or to stakeholders or to residents downstream.
For residents of Ijayi, Ijeontutun, Isaleoja, Kuto, Amolasho, Ijeja, Adedotun, Agoka, Enugada, Totoro, Onikoko, all in Abeokuta, obviously can't wait to sleep comfortably with their two eyes closed. From Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, John Felix reporting for Galaxy Television News.
It is now time for us to join our international desk for more news.
And tracking stories from the international scene. The Polish parliament has backed a state of emergency on the Belarus border amid a surge in migration and upcoming Russian-led military exercises. The tough law bans large gatherings and limits movement for 30 days in areas along Poland's border with Belarus. Poland accuses Belarus of inducing migrants to fly there on the false promise of legal entry to the EU. Belarus is not an EU member but borders 3 countries, which are Polish MPs voted to approve the law on Monday, though many opposition politicians said the emergency measures were disproportionate, as close to 200 towns in a 3 km, that's about 2-mile strip along the border, are now off-limit. By barring journalists from the area, they accused the government of trying to cover up a practice of pushing people seeking asylum back to Belarus. Poland and fellow EU states, Lithuania and Latvia, have seen massive increases in migrants from Iraq, Afghanistan and other Middle Eastern and Asian countries since the start of the summer. Last month alone, Polish border guards detained 8 times as many people crossing the border illegally as they did in the whole of 2020. Human rights campaigners have expressed concern about migrants with no shelter stock on the border between Poland and Belarus. Protests against the treatment of migrants at the border were held outside Parliament ahead of Monday's vote. Poland has laid barbed wire coils and is building a solid fence along its border with Belarus, where hundreds of troops have been sent. Lithuania and Latvia have taken similar steps to reinforce their borders with Belarus.
And with that international story, we end the news for this time. But before we go for more updates and latest news, visit our website, galaxytvonline.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Galaxy TV Nigeria. You can follow and interact with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Galaxy TV. Don't forget to follow and tag us on our Instagram page at official Galaxy TV. You can also avail our eyewitness feature via WhatsApp. If you have breaking news around you, simply share your story by sending short clips or videos of the news on 0818-6666-669. Our social media platforms are user-friendly and can always accommodate your live updates and comments. And that's the news. Thanks for watching. Join us again at 9 for our primetime news. I'm Solomon Offem. Good evening.